Hello, my friends. Today I want to speak with you about kind of a weird topic, and that is how our understanding and the way we learn geography actually has a pretty substantial impact on our psychology, how we view ourselves in relation to others and in relation to the world at large, and that it's something that we should think about is how we are going to present and teach geography, especially to children. And I'm not the only one who's thought this. I mean, if you've seen my recent video where I talk about the International Baccalaureate Program, which is an international schooling curriculum program that's been accepted into public schools all across Western countries, sponsored by the UN. It's the globalist curriculum par excellence, and it was developed initially, the philosophical doctrine of the International Baccalaureate was initially developed by a woman called Maria Teresa Moret, who I told you about in that video. And one interesting thing about Moret's pedagogical philosophy is that she adopted her father's synthetic geography, is what they called it. It was a new way of teaching children geography that they wanted to implement in their schooling system. And the reason they wanted to implement this into their schooling system was that overall, the overarching objective of the new curriculum developed by Moret was to make children no longer see themselves as nationals, to make national identity irrelevant, and to replace it with a sense of being a global citizen or a member of the human species, and to think about things in terms of some international, non-specific, universal state, essentially, and to mentally accept the agenda of there being a universal state that would erase all nations and subsume them within a global governance structure. And so Moret wanted to promote this idea. She wanted to erase national identity. And one way that her and her father decided that this could be done was by altering the way that we teach geography to children. Specifically, altering it such that the child's home country would not be mentioned or focused on in any way whatsoever. It would be ignored. And instead, the child would be introduced to geography through a world map or a globe instead of a local map of one's own region or country. And while ignoring the child's home nation, home country, and focusing on the globe as a whole, geography would be taught without reference to national frontiers. It would be taught in grand sweeping terms. And only later, if ever, would the child be taught about the specific geography of their home country. And what Moret and her father, whose name, by the way, was Paul Dupree, He was another big-time wealthy insider. What they thought that this technique would do would be to erase the sense of importance and centrality of children's own home country. And I think this is profound. Obviously I disagree completely with the techniques that they're developing, but these techniques, I think, are built on a solid understanding of how geography affects one's psychology and one's sense of identity, one's outlook on the world, how they feel that they relate to the world at large. And I was thinking about this today because I was speaking with someone who was a proponent, at least at first they seemed like a proponent, of the flat Earth model. The flat Earth model of the Earth. I was going to say of the globe, but that kind of begs the question. The flat Earth model of the Earth at large. The whole thing is flat. And I began to question this person because obviously I think that a flat Earth model is preposterous. But as the conversation went on, I found out that this person actually didn't believe in a literal flat Earth, and that they were not talking about the issue in a literal sense. It was almost an esoteric sense of flat Eartherism. So it's esoteric flat Eartherism is the term that I would like to give it. But what this person was trying to get at, I think, the angle that they were going for, is very similar to what Paul Dupree and Maret thought about their synthetic geography, which was that the way we see the world and the way we understand even the shape of the Earth at large can have certain psychological influences on us. It can influence even our values in a very abstruse and indirect sense, but it can work to shape our values. And while I don't think that it's a good idea to present this idea of a flat Earth as a literal reality, I do think that this person had a point, which is that the globe model and the way children are taught about geography, which is ultimately derivative of Paul Dupree's synthetic geography, that this does have sort of an influence that gives kids the impression that the Earth is a very small place, the borders are all made up, that everything on the globe is interconnected, interdependent, interrelated, and that really they should be thinking about things globally. That their focus should be on universals, the world at large, rather than their own personal and particular region of it. So, like I said, while I wouldn't push the idea of a flat Earth as a literal reality, and I'm not even going to defend I'm not even going to defend myself on that, because I think that the flat Earth is so patently absurd that to actually argue it at the level of physics, to take that as a physical theory, is just as absurd, and I don't even want to engage with it. But like I said, there is a good point in there. And that point is that I think instead of teaching children with the globe to begin with and giving them sort of a global geographic introduction, that they should really be given maps of their hometown, or even a map of their own street, and then build up to a map of their town, build up to a map of their region, and then build up even further to a map of their country. And only later, there goes my lights, only later should they be given the map of the world, or a globe, because really it has no relevance to what a child should be taught. And I don't think that the question of the shape of the earth at large would even occur to a child until later on in their intellectual development. And then once those questions naturally arise, then you can deal with them, because you've already given them the starting point of focusing on their own town, their own street, their own country. And so the foundations, the bedrock of their understanding is built up from that locality and that personal connection that they have to the immediate geography. So, and in that sense, you would be sort of implicitly treating the earth as flat, because the question of the earth's overall shape wouldn't be relevant. And I think that this sort of thinking, the question of what implications do certain fields of study have to our sense of identity, the way that we relate to the world, the way we understand ourselves socially especially, I think that this applies to so many other fields. And so did Maurette, the founder of International Baccalaureate. She talked about history as well, being taught in such a way that you focus on world history. And when you bring up the child's country of origin, the child's national homeland, you only mention that or tie it into the overall narrative if it relates to the overall narrative. Everything has to relate back to this global world historical narrative that people like Maurette want to push, because that narrative is what helps people feel a sense of inevitability when it comes to the creation of the world government that would be an unending tyranny that we cannot allow to happen. We all knows behind that. So history is one of those things, and also astronomy. The way that kids are taught that they're shown, like, you know, pictures of stars that are 50 million times bigger than our own sun, and next to it the Earth just is not even a speck. It's like you can't even see it. It's so small. That's not something that kids really need to know, because it's not a question that would occur to them, one. And two, it will really only serve to, I think, scare them, give them a warped sense of their significance in the world. I think a lot of people who really get into these ideas and think that, wow, it's so awe-inspiring how small we are. We're so small. We're so tiny. The reason they think that is because they're small compared to that which their teachers told them to compare themselves to. Which, why would you compare yourself to a star that exists at the center of the galaxy? Or why would you compare yourself to the galaxy as a whole? What is the point of that relation? What actual understanding do you gain from that? It seems like an exercise of just self-flagellation or something like that, where you want to remind people how small they are so that you keep them humble, so you keep them modest, so that they don't question the real giants of authority and experthood. I don't know. But we need to think about these things so that we can develop a curriculum for our children who are a part of the nationalist groups that we're engaged in. I think it would be a good thing to be able to have sort of curriculum plans that us traditional, decent people who are against the global government, who actually recognize the value of nationhood, who don't want to reject our own nationality, who don't want to become subsumed into this multiculti gray blob, we should have curriculum plans that we could pass along to each other. And things like how we teach history, things like how we teach geography, things like how we teach astronomy and cosmology and things like that should include these kinds of considerations. And like I'm not trying to say that we should, reject science or reject critical, rational thinking. That's exactly what this sort of curriculum should be based on. But we have to do something that helps to shape and sort of inoculate our children against this globalist influence that will, it can corrupt anything. I mean, it tries its best to turn anything that it can touch, whether it's geography, whether it's history, into some kind of tool that will further and advance their agenda. So, and it does seem like it's in everything today. Just a couple final stories. I started classes again at university last Monday, and let's see, I'm taking an ancient Greek archaeology and art class. I'm taking my German class. I'm taking a class on Plato, and I'm taking a class on English literature from the 1600s to the 1800s. And I was going to participate in the university choir, but I decided to drop out because the audition song that we were supposed to sing to be our first introduction to the choir leader, or the choir, whoever's leading the choir, our first introduction, the audition song, was a Spanish song. And I don't speak Spanish. I cannot sing Spanish. It puts me at a major disadvantage as an English speaker to have my audition song be in Spanish. And it gives a major advantage to those who do speak Spanish. So as soon as I realized that, as soon as I saw that the audition was going to be in Spanish, I was like, fuck this. Because you know what? That just shows me that the professor is someone who wishes to put at a disadvantage those who only speak their their home nation's language. And I mean, I'm trying to learn German because I am German. But really, I'm only fluent in English because this is my homeland. Why should I be expected to speak foreign languages? And this sort of a thing where you make the audition in a foreign language puts us, normal people, at a disadvantage. And it promotes, in a very sly and subtle way, promotes multiculturalism. And I did not like that. So I quit. I did not join it. One other thing was, in my class on ancient Greek philosophy, the Plato class, the professor said something pretty interesting today, which is that Greek philosophy was the result of multiculturalism. Greek philosophy is the result of multiculturalism. It's the result of different cultures with different principles, different traditions, different values coming into conflict with each other, and them feeling like they had to come up with some objective, universal way to decide what is right and wrong in these questions. And, the more I thought about it, the more I thought that she was, in a certain sense, right about some ancient Greek philosophy. Not all of it, but some of it. Maybe of Plato in particular. Maybe this is true about Plato. So I don't like Plato very much. But then she went on to say, you know, that this sort of philosophy would replace tradition, and that tradition would never have been questioned if it weren't for multiculturalism, if it weren't for coming into contact with other different cultures. And so this is a very good thing. Tradition should be questioned. And if, you know, a culture is isolated, if they don't have any other cultures around, then nobody's ever going to question the tradition. And so things can never get any better, because what if the tradition's wrong? 100%, you know, maybe there's a grain of truth somewhere in there, but I disagree completely with the spirit of what she's saying, this promotion of multiculturalism. I was like, when I was listening to it, I was like, God, do you really have to slip this in? You're so trendy. I mean, did they pass around a memo? You know, did they send a memo out to all the professors? Force multiculturalism into anything you can. Get the multicultural message out. You gotta be promoting multiculturalism any chance you get. Well, there goes the lights. Hold on. There we go. And I was bothered by that, but maybe there is some nugget of truth in what she's saying. Maybe I'll make a video on that. But yeah, this idea that tradition is inherently backwards, and that we need to somehow come into contact with other different traditions to learn the truth about our traditions, or to find some universal truth, totally misguided. And yeah, it bothered me that it seems like every chance that they get, they're pushing the multiculti message. So, was not a fan. Anyway, been talking for over 20 minutes now, and I think that's all I have to say for this video. Oh, I will say, for those of you who stayed to the end, I'm sorry that I haven't been making as many videos lately. And I think part of the reason for that, I always spin some kind of story to tell you guys. I mean, but I think part of the reason for that was as going back to school approached, as the prospect of me realizing all the summer's coming to a close, I'm gonna have to go back to school. It really fucking depresses me. It really, like, puts me in a state of mind that is not good. I can't stand school. I can't stand university. Can't wait for it to be over. And I'm almost there. So, and you know, being back in school does give me sort of this this spirit of conflict, and it gives me a different kind of energy, a more combative, more antagonistic sort of energy. And so hopefully I'll be making more videos about the shit that I disagree with in class, and maybe the shit that I disagree with online. And hopefully, yeah, I want to be making more videos, and so I really appreciate you guys watching. I love my audience. You guys are the best audience online. If you want, please come join the Discord. We have chats all the time on Discord. It's a lot of fun. And once again, thank you. Shout outs to, like, Unlock the Power, Aired World, let's see, Jolly Crocodile. Where have you been, Jolly Crocodile? You just disappeared on us. Hellblindy, who recently started a channel. Tons of great guys on there. Who else? I want to mention more names, but I have a terrible short-term memory, and I'm terrible on the spot. But yeah, all the guys on the Discord, especially if you're a perennial herb. Love you guys being there. So yeah, thank you for watching, and hope to see you again soon.